Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about NATO and its accusations against Russia that Russia is not following the START treaty. Let's begin. So, NATO and Russia have a treaty called START Treaty. This is a treaty for the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. That's what its full form is. It was first signed between the US and the Soviet Union in the 1990s, and it was meant to reduce the number of nuclear weapons that each of them had. And it was renewed in 2010, and that time it was called the New START Treaty. Why I want to talk about that is because NATO has accused Russia break breaking and violating the treaty for a particular reason, and Russia has denied it. And with the Ukraine war intensifying, want to make sure that I want to explain the status of nuclear weapons and what each country's position on them is. Let's begin. The New START Treaty. It is a treaty that deals with the reduction and control of nuclear weapons by the US and Russia. The US being the most important member of NATO. NATO too has opinions upon it and has a stake in the treaty being worked. That's why I've included it in this video. It was signed by President Obama of the US and President Medvedev of Russia in 2010. It says that each country is to have 700 or less number of ICBMs. Now, let me just see how the US and Russia have followed this point and other points in the treaty. Depending on which country has reduced its number of nuclear weapons in any form, that will prove to me that that country is following the treaty better than the other. The US, as of this year, has 659 ICBMs. This is close to, but not equal to the 700 ICBM limit, but still good, some reduction. And Russia has 540, so which is almost 200 fewer ICBMs than what the treaty gives as the upper limit. So on this point, Russia is following the treaty better than the US. Warheads. Each country can have 1,550 warheads or less. The US has 1,420, which is okay, not very close to the limit, but still not low enough. However, it's better than Russia, who has 1,549 um, warheads. The cheek, can you imagine? There's a limit is 1,550, so they just go right up to that limit. So obviously, in this case, the US is following the treaty much better than Russia. So, launchers of ICBMs and SLBMs. Uh, According to the treaty, both countries should have 800 or less numbers of these. The US has 800, exactly the same as the limit, so no points there for the US. Now let's see Russia. Russia has 759. So still close to the limit, but better than the US. So there are 18 inspections are to be done in a year. These inspections are done by the opposite country in the host country's nuclear silos, their launchers, and they basically make sure that the other country is following the treaty properly. It is on this point that NATO and Russia have a disagreement today. So, why are NATO and Russia in a dispute over this treaty? It is because last year Russia refused to facilitate US inspection activities on its territory in August 2022. This, according to NATO, prevents the United States from exercising their rights under the treaty and harms the United States' ability to adequately verify Russian compliance with the treaty's central limits. According to NATO, the US is in compliance with the New START treaty. So, because Russia is not allowing the US to inspect its nuclear sites, the US can't tell whether, as of the present moment, that Russia is following the treaty's limits. There's no evidence outside of the what could be garnered from an inspection to show that Russia is breaking the treaty, but NATO and the US cannot verify that, and so there is some nervousness occurring. NATO allies welcome that in February 2021, the New START Treaty, which was came into force in 2011 and had a 10-year lifespan, was extended by 5 years. Now, why is Russia not allowing the US to inspect its activities and sites when it had done so before all this while? Let's see. Uh, and there's going to be a new meeting this year, as there is every year, but unfortunately, neither side has set a new date for a meeting. Sergei Ryabkov, the deputy foreign minister, said the conditions were not right for new talks on the treaty. Situation does not allow escalation for setting a new date. This is because the escalation trend in both rhetoric and actions by the United States. So Russia says that the US's recent actions don't allow for Russia to be confident in sharing this information with them. Now, there has been very little contact between both countries. For giving Trevor Reed for Brittany Griner. Direct high level contact has been scarce. Moscow says that in November it had no other choice but to cancel talks with the United States over inspections under the New START treaty. So, what do I think of this dispute? Well, first of all, must be said that Russia has been following the treaty better than the US. We cannot say that Russia has never followed this treaty and this latest issue is proof of that. No, Russia has been following the treaty. So for Russia to not allow inspections, something as routine as inspections by the US, it shows that something else is affecting their behavior. The what that thing is no trophies for guessing what that issue is. It is the Ukraine issue and the US's support for Ukraine in its conflict with Russia. That's basically almost destroyed Russia's trust in the US and their hope for diplomacy and peace with the US because the US's staggering sanctions against Russia when for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, you might think that, well, that's an invasion. There have to be sanctions. I disagree because I believe that this attack by Russia on Ukraine was justified, and I've said this in a previous video. You can see the link for that somewhere on the screen in the top right corner. So yeah, this uh, so Russia simply does not want to allow U.S. investigators to see its weapons, its launchers, its ICBMs. It just doesn't trust the U.S. And but still, I do think that Russia has violated the treaty by not allowing inspections, and NATO has a right to demand Russia to do so. But NATO needs to make Russia more confident and allow Russia to know that no uh, secret classified information will be inspected or stolen by the US, and that the US is going to just make sure that the treaty is being followed properly. Because if Russia does not allow the US to inspect its nuclear weapons, then the US might not allow Russia to do the same, which will be very dangerous and could lead to nuclear arms actually being built by both countries, ignoring the limitations set by the new START treaty. So, yeah, this is a situation that both countries need to resolve, and I'm glad that NATO is taking notice of this and does not let the US alone dictate how this issue is solved. Ultimately, I just hope that nuclear weapons in both countries, and in fact all countries, including mine, are reduced to the minimum level so that be used as a last resort. Please share your feedback for this video in the comment section. If you want to see other videos about NATO, click here. If you want to see my previous video, click here. If you want to see the sources I use for this video and make sure that I'm not making stuff up, click the links in the description below. Thank you for watching. Vande Mataram.